Great, let's get started then. Again, welcome to this session of Roots Tech. We would just like to remind you all to keep your microphones muted throughout the presentation. We're really excited about what our speaker today has to share with us, Tania. Just a reminder as well, if you have any questions or any comments that you would like to share throughout the presentation, please use the comments or the chat here on the Zoom room. And then at the end, Tania will be happy to answer a few questions from you guys as well. So Tania, the time is yours. We're excited to hear what you have to share.
Thank you, Daniel. So my talk today is called Reviving Community Through Film. My name is Tania, and I come from a village. Not many of my contemporaries can claim that. I come from a village. And what that means to me is the distinct scent of the village's wild herbs and pine trees, the whiff of sweet incense on Sunday Mass, the open arms that call you towards a genuine hospitality everywhere you go, the untimely wake up of the roosters, the neighbors walking into your home without need for appointment to share in the delights of drinking freshly cooked coffee, the echoes of warm hellos to anyone and everyone who passes through the village. Not many of my contemporaries can say the same. Roumieh, as my village is called, sits atop a hill overlooking the Mediterranean coast of Lebanon. Growing up in this village offered me everyone could hope for. A safe space to explore my wild and woolly childhood. A strong sense of being cherished and cared for by anyone and everyone in the village. And a deep sense of community. The preciousness of all this struck me when I traveled to study and work abroad, as I came to realize that I could always count on that deep knowing that I have a solid belonging to a village and to a community whenever I faced moments of loneliness and confusion. I also came to realize just how rare this kind of belonging is. It's not always that you hear of someone who has a village they can seek refuge in as a North Star. I couldn't have identified this in the past, but this deep sense of belonging anchored me a powerful feeling of trust and so freedom. After all, it's easy to take what a caring village offers you for granted, but in its deep rooting, it gives you wings to navigate with confidence and creativity an increasingly confusing world. And so I say this with immense gratitude. I come from a village. Roumieh stands out as one of the few remaining villages that is so closely located near the sprawling capital, Beirut, yet still stubbornly holds on to its village norms. This, however, is being progressively challenged as Roumieh is falling vulnerable to increasing pressure from urbanization and the standardizing forces of globalization and technology. Though chiefly, Roumieh is falling vulnerable to changes due to the aging and dying of the village elders, since they are the keepers of our tradition and those who most embody the village's way of life. The elderly of our village, well, they hold a unique place as they are the only ones who still fully embody our traditional and customary way of being, as it merged with and is being diluted by our more digital way of being and our loss of contact with the land. They are the last in line who lived in an agrarian world with close ties to the land. They are the ones who witnessed the introduction of industry in the late 19th century, but also globalization after the Second World War and the technological revolution and digitalization of our world. In so doing, they hold a very unique balance and herald the transition between two seemingly paradoxical worlds, the old and the new. It takes just being in their presence for a few moments to notice and get a feel of just how more grounded, caring, and present they are within this fast-paced and distracted world of technology that we live in. And so I asked myself, what happens when they leave? So why are communal history and belonging important in the first place? Well, according to research, healthy communities has a positive impact on mental health, emotional well-being, and a sense of security. Healthy communities also provide a sense of belonging and social connectedness, both horizontally in terms of identity, but also vertically in a more economic and security sense of point of view. In a village, nobody is left behind. According to the writer Zygmunt Bauman, community is an antidote to modern day's liquid life. And according to the famous anthropologist Margaret Mead, community-affirming rituals harness group attunement, tolerance, and encourage unconditional acceptance. But there are two worrying trends that are making healthy communities vulnerable. Those are increased individualization. We're losing touch with our local identities, and we engage less and less in communal practices. And so we have less of a sense of belonging to a loving community. The second worrying trend is the marginalization and alienation of our elderly. We're making them more and more irrelevant, whereas they are the heart of the matter when it comes to community. And so I asked myself how to revive healthy communities. So when it came to asking myself these two questions, I realized that what was available to me was to use my camera to film and use film as an effective medium to eternalize and capture Roumieh's elderly's heart and soul. Film to me was the effective medium to transmit oral history and to convey the preciousness of our belonging. And so I video recorded the elders of the village as much and as many as possible, spending these days, weeks, and sometimes months with them at a time. I had no elaborate agenda. It was very much a bottom-up approach, with the record button almost always on. I thought to myself, what could be non-essential today may be a key insight generations down the line. And so the end result was around 7 years of filming, over 80 hours of historical archival video footage, over 8,000 photos and documents, and essentially an embodied oral history that transmits the essence of a 500-year-old village archived in a film library. This bottom-up approach of filming led to many themes, clearly. So all the clips were sequenced into themes, and there were around over 20 meta themes and 60 sub-themes. Some examples of the themes that emerged through this footage was World War II, World War I, the Civil War, agrarian lifestyle, trades, globalization, diaspora, the land, active traditions, but also past traditions that are no longer active, etc. I would like to give you an example of these clips, and so I chose one of these themes, old versus new, and just included just a few clips from the archives to show you.
حياة محبة. واحد إذا صار شيء بتشوف الناس كلها سهرانة عند بعضها، صغير مع الكبير، لأنه كلنا قرايب وفي محبة كانت أكثر من اليوم.
بدنا نروح المطرح تنتجمع تناكل تبولة، انت جيب البرغلات انا بجيب الحامضة انت بتجيبي بندورة بالشتي ما في ناكل التبولة بلا بندورة. ايوه اطيب بلا بندورة.
ضيع كله يجوا من العشية يحطوا شو بيقولوا 3 عجينات 4 عجينات نوبة. أنا اليوم دوري برجع أنت دورك برجعوا دوروا بالدور يخبزوا يساعدوا بعضهم. يرقوا أنا هللون واخبز له ياخذ على 5 قروش على الراتب على أيام ال5 قروش.
And another example, just to give you a bit more flavor as to how this footage revealed itself, is for the diaspora, a small clip on that theme.
أرجنتين، برازيل، كولومبيا، الولايات المتحدة، راحوا على أوروبا، ما خلوا مطرح غير لما راحوا، لأن الحاجة كان بدها هيك.
سنة ال 14 نص العالم راحت على البرازيل يروحوا ورا الشغل ويصيروا يودوا مصاري لأهلهم ويتركوا أرزاقهم هون ويروحوا.
راحوا على أمريكا اللاتينية، ما نعرف شيء عنه. مثل ما أنا عندي خير على أستراليا، عنده 4 بنات، ما بعرف شيء عنهم، بعرف أساميهم بس، ولما نبيع بدي أبعث لهم مصاري، هذا كل شيء.
So after this project was done, I asked myself, this is all well and done. I have 80 hours of archived oral history, but how can I make that appealing and relevant to the younger generation, who, after all, this project was made on their behalf? And so I decided that I would have to, create a small movie, a short movie from this footage that included a summary of the most effective scenes to transmit the essence of our local community in a medium and format that is accessible but also appealing to the new generation. My concern was that I didn't want this archive to just sit there passively, but have more of an active and dynamic purpose, and that can serve in a way to remind people why it's important to keep our community engaged and our traditions alive as they merge with the new. I also decided that I would want to offer this movie to the village in a premiere. And so along with volunteers, we organized a screening of the movie to reveal the movie with all the village gathered in the village's main square. That image there was the poster that was distributed to the village at the time. And then thereafter, the movie was then made publicly and digitally available on YouTube to make sure that it was as accessible as possible. The premiere was really a remarkable event. It was really all the village coming together to watch their own communal story. It was a revival of our collectivity and of the essential ingredients that make up a community through a night of dynamic intergenerational transmission. It was also a moment of great compassion, joy, connection, remembering but also relearning our heritage. And through relearning our essential, it was a night that even included reconciliations. It was indeed a historical moment that brought younger and elder together, despite the heart-wrenching challenges of social distancing and the collapse of our country's institutions. And so with that, we still wanted to ask ourselves, how do we keep on perpetuating our ancestry and keeping this as an ongoing dialectic? And so the village documentary, as it's called, Moving Forward, has an ongoing platform on social media, whereby we're using this platform almost like a virtual social media museum in a way to present and reveal all the remaining 80 hours of the footage and keep the conversation going. We're also inviting on this media platform for others to pick up their phone cameras and film whatever feels relevant in life to them in terms of community or the elderlies around them, and to share that on the platform to keep the conversation going. Community is an active function. And I'd like to end on this, that it's a practice as much as it's a story. Thank you.
Thank you, Tania. What a great, warm presentation to start us today. This is great.
Thank you, Daniel.
We'll open this up a little bit for questions. I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. You can also unmute yourself. It's a fairly small group. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask Tania any questions about what she just shared, about her movie, about the process that she used to capture all of these stories, but please feel free to raise your hand, or you can even write a question in the comments box or the chat box here in Zoom. But while we wait for you all to have the courage to ask some questions, I was thinking of a few things, Tania, while you were presenting. You mentioned that your recorder was always on.
Yeah.
How did you start your conversations with these people, and what types of questions did you ask? We know that elderly people or ancient people or these people from the village, people that are more in that small group, they're always happy to talk and tell stories, and you just have to say good morning and they'll start off saying something, and telling you a story of something that happened. But how did you start those conversations, and what were some of the questions that you asked in order to capture something that you felt would actually keep the community culture going, and make it appealing for the youth, as you mentioned in your presentation?
Yeah, I felt like the first question I would always ask in Arabic is كيف كان أيام زمان? So how were the old days, And it was just to get them in connection with their with that remembrance of what is very precious to them, because obviously their childhood is very precious to them, and to start our exploration from there. And so have their hearts open up with that question and really have them relive those sweet childhood memories, and then start creating the building blocks from there to see, how their lives evolved and changed and what they experienced throughout. But like you said, they love to share their stories, and they had a very intrinsic understanding of the importance of this project. So they were very much leading me as much as I was leading them. They knew more than me what to do and what to say, in a way. So it didn't take much concern or effort on my end, other than being there with an open heart and open ears to keep them motivated to share. And again, I also wanted to mention that they had a very natural presence with the camera, so there was no feeling of being filmed with them too. They were very spontaneous, and but the question was always the same question to start off the journey with. It was كيف كان أيام زمان? How were the old days? And it would spark a whole conversation with them.
And then they wouldn't stop saying things, right? Then
yes, exactly.
Carry on from one thing
exactly.
to the next. That's awesome.
Because also people don't listen so much anymore. Everyone's in a rush, everybody's busy. So it was an opportunity to not only be to have the honor to be in their presence, which again was so calming and grounded, and they have a certain way of being that is distinct, and that I think we should learn how to cultivate in our day and age. But also it was nice for them to have someone to genuinely be listening to them too, and to cherish those very precious stories and the very precious wisdom that they hold.
Awesome. Paul Abbott was asking, what do you plan on doing with the rest of the content that you have? There must be some great gems that were edited out of the summary documentary that you prepared.
Yeah, that's true. It was very hard to choose what to put in and what to keep out. That took almost a year and a half of decision making. But we're using the social media. So Instagram, we put mini clips on Instagram from the 80 hours footage to keep this village documentary alive, and to keep this sweet reminders of our community, of our identities, and of our elderly. And also we're looking into putting everything on a cloud, so with themes and fully archived, and that can be accessed by anybody who has a login and who belongs to the village on that cloud. So that's something we're still looking into. But at the moment, we've been quite busy with the social media pages and sharing those in what I call, it's almost like a social media museum. So we're just putting these archives there, this archival museum on the social media, one day at a time.
That totally makes sense. And it was great seeing those screenshots that you shared of people actually reacting to your posts and saying that they felt like they were taken back, and that it warmed their hearts as they were going through it. And one thing that also you mentioned in your presentation was that these people, they were taken to places where, if there were any feuds, if there are any misunderstandings or any of these things that separated them, those were paused for that time while they were watching and taken back to those days, and they saw what really mattered. That's really cool.
Yeah, that was really beautiful to feel and to see.
Yeah. So we have Juliana has her hand raised. Juliana, go ahead.
Yes, hi, a beautiful presentation. I just wanted to ask, after the movie was screened and made public, did anyone else come hand over any more archives that they had and said, oh, by the way, I have this photo and I have this footage, and have you been getting any more archives from post-film and post-publicly screening the film?
Yeah, we did get a lot of people, not only from the village but also from surrounding villages, very eager to share and to be part of this dynamic archival project, and so we've been getting a lot of contributions from others who don't know what to do with these photos or with these documents, and who were always asking themselves, this is sitting in this corner over there, in this drawer over here, and they finally felt like they had this kind of vehicle to safeguard and to preserve these documents. But also we also had a lot of other villages asking for movies to be done on their villages too, which has been interesting. So we've been very eager to share with them how we've done it and to encourage them to do the same. And again, on our social media, we're also encouraging the youth to pick up their cameras on their phones and to gather their own stories to share in the conversation and in the community of social media.
Yeah, I saw on the shots from the screening that there are quite a bit of youth and children there watching this movie. Did you see them react that way and start wanting to film and photograph and share these stories as well?
Yeah, there was definitely a very strong resonance. I thought that the event would be very nice and well, but I thought the youth would probably get bored. I wasn't sure if they would even be interested. So it was very heartwarming and surprising to me to see to what extent it touched them. I saw tears in 8-year-olds and 12-year-olds and even 14-year-olds. All of them were so touched, and it was really almost like they were starved of that first, in some ways. And as you can see, towards the end of the evening, there was so much elation and joy, and they're all very eager to help and contribute. They're all very interested, and they keep on, waiting avidly on social media for the next post. To what extent are they being active in that? I'm not sure. We're trying to encourage them. I haven't felt that aspect. I haven't really gotten anybody giving me a lot of footage yet. I would say they're more on the conversational end and the receiving end, but I am trying to bring a bit more proactivity in this and to encourage them in a way that they would enjoy to do this.
And that makes sense. And even if in a couple of years, they're a little bit older, they're not youth anymore, but you've planted that seed of wanting to capture this, and they suddenly click and realize, oh, I remember that film. I also want to do something about, when I was a child, or, I need to capture this. So that will definitely have some sort of domino effect in other generations.
Yeah, I hope so. That's the intention, because in this life we get increasingly, unsure who we are or where we're going. That's could be a beautiful anchor for them. And I have received a lot of messages from people of the diaspora. That was a huge, impact, was the members of the diaspora who really felt very touched by this movie and reminded them of also the essential ingredients that they would have liked to be reminded of.
That's great. Still on that topic, Paul was asking if beyond putting that on YouTube, do you have other plans on how to reach the diaspora? Such as translating this into Portuguese to reach those family members that moved to Brazil from some of those people that participated in the movie.
Yeah, that is something. Thank you, Paula. That is something we are currently looking into. I'm working with one of the attachés of Lebanon and Ecuador to translate the movie, since we've been getting a lot of viewership from the diaspora. And we're going to be translating it for now in Spanish, and later on we'll look into translating it in Portuguese as well to make it more accessible with the members of the diaspora, which I came to realize that this movie really had the biggest impact on the diaspora. I think that it was very meaningful to them, because Roumieh is a village like many other villages that they come from in Lebanon. so they could really see themselves and relate with the textures and the themes that were revealed in this movie.
It looks like a beautiful village. A lot of villages are also, because they have a lot of a more elderly kind of population, it tends that it's not so cared for as much in terms of like the buildings, and and so that the fact that you capture that's also great, because in the future people will be able to watch it and see how was that village in terms of the landscape and the facades of the buildings and with lights at night. So that's great.
That's true. And also to hopefully resensitize them to the importance to preserve our geographical and architectural heritage, and not transform it too much. Preserve as much as we can. Yeah.
Good. We're almost finishing up here, but I have to ask, what was your favorite story? Maybe it's in the movie, maybe it's not. And what was your biggest learning from, these stories that you captured, or specifically from that one that you selected as your favorite one?
It's hard to choose. I think that the ones that really made my heart smile was the stories of the women. So the theme from woman life, and then the stories that they would give and how they were, the first time they were the first generation to wear pants, because they would wear skirts all the time. And then the first time they ever went to a doctor, because they only had housewives before. So the first time they went to something called a gynecologist, and they were recounting that. And then, so I think that was the stories that I felt like being in their presence, that scene with all these 8 women together sitting in a semicircle. One was knitting, one was, I think that those specific stories that emerged from them as I was sitting with them, that was the most, endearing part. And, they had a great sense of humor too. Most of them passed away. So I think 90% of the elders of the movie already passed away now as we speak. So I think that's one of the scenes that really marked me. And what is my most important learning is how much simplicity. They really what they teach us is that it's very complex to just live life by seeing things through the filters of very simple ingredients. So presence, love, and being embodied, so being close to the here and now. So I feel like my biggest learning, what I will keep with me by being in their presence all those hours and days, is that presence, that simplicity in living, and simplicity that you can almost find through any complexity.
Yeah, I really love that there was someone talking about everyone making this dough, And it kind of feels like that when you go to those villages. It feels like time lasts longer, that you can do more things with your time than in the big cities, which is very interesting. It's like when you travel in time. This is great. This has been really good, Tania. I was just thinking about how did you pull off this project? Did you get support from the local authorities? Did you get some type of sponsorships? How do you, because this looks like a really high quality product with really high value. I bet you try to keep the budget really, really tight, but how did you do this, and how are you going to then translate this into other languages as well? Is there any way that people can even help in funding this type of projects?
Yeah. So first of all, I had done a course. I decided that if I wanted to do this project, I would have to hone my skills, even though I'm an amateur photographer. I took courses in videography, and I took courses in videography with my DSLR, because that's what I had as a photographer. So it was filmed mainly with my DSLR. And so I had that machinery already available to me. And then I invested in that course and invested in some in audio recording equipment. And so for the most part, it was just me and my time. I contributed my own time. And of course, whenever I needed to film some events, like I film many events that are active traditions, I got the okay of the authorities and the help of the municipality for any logistics. But then during those years, I also asked university students to help me because they just wanted to practice their skill. And I was very lucky to be in contact with them, and they were very, very eager to help. They were very touched by the theme of this project and very touched that someone like me would take my own time to do this. So there was a lot of support from them, and I cannot tell you how close they got to these elders as well. They became their grandmothers and grandfathers, And so after one day, it didn't take much to convince them to offer another day and another day. So that was that. And then when it came to so really mainly my time, and when it came to the post-production, I had used some of my own savings to work with some people to refine some things, although the editing was done mostly by me. But just for some coloring or some sound issues, again, they were very kind to understand that it was very much a pro bono and passion project. So yes, that was it. It was mainly my time, volunteers, and a bit of my own pocket money as well.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's...
and for the translation, it's people who are offering this help. So now that it's out there, I always say I've done my part. So whoever would like to help, it's all volunteer basis.
Awesome.
I'm very happy to receive that.
But you still have a number of villages that you need to do this for. So if anyone here would like to help Tania with her future projects, reach out to her, because this has been a great experience. I hope for everybody on this call as well to go through this process with Tania that she shared. Thank you everyone for being here. This has been recorded. It will be available for future reference on rootstech.org. And we invite you all to enjoy the rest of Rootstech. We're coming to the final day of Rootstech. So be sure to check out other classes that we have around. Tania, it's been an immense pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Daniel.
Doing what you're doing, and hopefully we'll have you share a few more of these stories in the future as you capture all those other villages and other stories around Lebanon and the world. Well done.
Thank you so much, Daniel, and thank you to Rootstech for offering me this platform. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.